The sky of New Earth burned orange as two suns sank behind the distant mountains. The city below looked peaceful, shining metal towers, flying cars, and lights dancing like stars. But peace was only for humans. The aliens who lived here were not free. In the market of Sector 9, a group of alien slaves stood in chains. Their eyes were full of fear and hate. Above them, human soldiers shouted orders, their armor glowing in the sunset. One of the aliens was a young girl, small, silver-skinned, and trembling. Her name was Lyra. Her bright blue eyes showed something different, pride. Even with shackles on her wrists, she refused to bow. The crowd whispered as her name was called. "She's the daughter of the Zynar leader," someone said.
"She tried to fight the council,"
another added. The soldiers pushed her forward. The punishment for rebellion was clear: slavery under humans. But no one expected what came next. From the back of the stage, a man stepped forward, tall, serious, wearing a dark jacket with a soldier's mark. His name was Ethan Hale, a war veteran who once fought against the Zynar Empire. He had scars on his face and a heavy look in his eyes. "Captain Hale," the commander said, "the council has chosen you. The alien girl will serve you as punishment for her people's crimes." Ethan's jaw tightened. He didn't want a slave, especially not a young girl. "But refusing the council was dangerous, I accept," he said quietly. Lyra stared at him with hate. "You think you own me?" she hissed. Ethan met her eyes. "No, but the world does." The soldiers laughed as they pushed her toward him. Ethan took the control band, a small metal ring that could command her with pain or orders. He looked at it for a long time, then pocketed it instead of using it. As they walked through the silent streets, Lyra broke the silence. "You humans destroy everything," she said bitterly. "Maybe," Ethan replied. "But sometimes we fix what we break." She didn't answer. They reached Ethan's home, a small house on the city's edge, half covered in dust and vines. Inside it was quiet. He gave her food and water. She didn't touch it. "Eat," he said. "You'll need your strength." "I'd rather starve," she whispered. He sighed. "Suit yourself." That night, Lyra sat near the window looking up at the sky. Somewhere far away, her planet still burned. Her family was gone. Everything she knew, destroyed by humans. Her eyes filled with tears, but she quickly wiped them away. Ethan sat across the room, cleaning an old weapon. He could feel her pain, but didn't know what to say. He remembered the war, the screams, the fire, the endless loss. Both of them were victims of the same war, just on different sides. Outside, thunder rumbled. Inside silence, Lyra finally spoke. "Why didn't you use the control band?" Ethan looked at her. "Because I don't believe in slavery." She frowned. "Then why keep me here?" "Because the council said so," he said softly. "And because if I let you go, they'll kill you." For a long time, neither of them spoke. The storm outside grew louder. Then suddenly, Lyra's collar began to glow red, a signal from the council's system. Ethan jumped to his feet. "They're tracking you," he said. "They think I'm disobeying orders." Lyra's breathing quickened. "What will they do?" she asked. "They'll come here soon." Ethan stood by the window, staring into the dark streets. "I don't know why, but I'll protect you," he said. Lyra stared at him, confused. This human, her enemy, was ready to fight for her? Somewhere in the distance, sirens started to echo. Red lights flashed in the sky. Ethan loaded his weapon. "They're coming," he said. Lyra's heart pounded. For the first time, she felt something strange. Fear not of him, but for him. The door shook as soldiers arrived outside. Ethan turned to Lyra. "Stay behind me." And in that moment, two enemies, human and alien, stood together for the first time. The story of their fate had just begun. The night exploded with noise. Sirens wailed through the city, red lights flashing across Ethan's windows. The soldiers had come faster than he expected. Ethan grabbed his blaster from the table and looked at Lyra. "They'll kill you if they find you here," he said. Lyra's collar glowed brighter, a faint red ring pulsing around her neck. She could feel it tightening, burning. "It hurts," she whispered. Ethan cursed under his breath. He opened his toolbox and pulled out a small metal cutter. "Hold still," he said. "You can't remove it," she gasped. "It's linked to my pulse." "If you cut it wrong," "I know," he said. His hands were steady, but his heart pounded. "Trust me." Outside, boots pounded on the ground. Voices shouted orders. Search every house. She's here somewhere. Ethan pressed the cutter against the collar. Sparks flew. Lyra winced but didn't scream. He focused, watching the red light blink slower, then stop. The collar fell to the ground with a faint hiss. Lyra touched her neck in disbelief. You freed me? Ethan nodded. Now run. He pulled her toward the back door just as the front one shattered. Soldiers stormed in, rifles raised. Laser shots cut through the air, burning holes in the wall. Ethan fired back. 2 soldiers fell instantly. Go! He shouted. Lyra hesitated, looking back. She could see him fighting alone, his armor flickering in the red light. For a moment, her pride melted into fear. Then she turned and ran through the narrow alley. Rain began to fall, heavy, cold, washing the streets in silver light. Lyra slipped through the shadows, her heart racing. She could still hear the battle behind her. When she reached the corner, she stopped and looked back. Ethan stumbled out of the house, his jacket burned, a cut across his face. He limped toward her. You're hurt, she said. I've had worse, he replied, breathing hard. They moved together through the maze of alleys, dodging drones that scanned from above. Every light in the city seemed to search for them. Lyra finally spoke. Why are you doing this? You could have turned me in. Ethan didn't answer right away. He looked at her. The fear, the confusion, the strange strength in her eyes. Because I've seen enough people die for orders that make no sense, he said finally. You're not my enemy anymore. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. No human had ever spoken to her like that. They hid inside an old factory near the city's edge. The air smelled of metal and dust. Ethan sealed the door with a metal bar. Lyra sat against a wall, trembling. Her silver skin glowed faintly in the dark. Back on my planet, she said softly. Humans were monsters in our stories. Now I don't know what to believe. Ethan sat down beside her. Maybe we both grew up with the wrong stories, he said. Outside, a drone flew past the window, its red eye scanning the ground. Both of them froze. When it moved on, they exhaled slowly. Lyra looked at Ethan again. They'll keep hunting us. I know, he said. We'll have to leave the city. Where will we go? There's an old outpost in the mountains. It's abandoned, but it might still have supplies, she nodded. Then we go at sunrise. As they waited, silence filled the room. Ethan checked his weapon. Lyra stared at him curiously. You're not like the others, she said quietly. I'm not sure that's a good thing, he replied. Suddenly her gaze shifted. Your shoulder. It's bleeding. Ethan looked down. A deep burn mark from a blaster shot. Without thinking, Lyra touched his wound. Her fingers glowed faint blue. Warm energy spread through his skin, closing the burn slightly. Ethan blinked in surprise. What was that? A gift, she said. From my people. We can heal small wounds. Why help me? She looked away. Because you helped me first. For the first time since the war, Ethan smiled faintly. Outside, the storm calmed. The city lights shimmered in the distance. As dawn approached, they stepped out quietly. The streets were empty, the air cold. Ethan led the way toward the mountains, keeping his weapon ready. Lyra followed, her steps silent. She glanced at the rising sun, 2 glowing spheres climbing above the horizon. For the first time since her capture, she felt a strange warmth inside. Maybe freedom wasn't just about running away. Maybe it was about finding someone who saw her as more than a slave. Ethan looked back and met her eyes. Keep close, he said. This is only the beginning, Lyra nodded. Somewhere deep inside, something had changed. And as they disappeared into the wild lands beyond the city, the council's drones spread across the sky, hunting the impossible pair. A human soldier and an alien slave who no longer obeyed any master. The sun rose over the wastelands, a dry, endless land of red sand and broken metal. Wind howled across the empty plains, carrying the smell of dust and burnt machines. Ethan and Lyra moved carefully between the rocks, staying low. Behind them, the city was only a shadow. Ahead, the mountains stood tall like sleeping giants. Ethan checked his scanner. We're clear for now, he said. Lyra looked up. They'll follow us, he nodded. Always do. For hours, they walked in silence. The heat grew stronger. The twin suns burned the sky white. Ethan's armor beeped, a low power. Lyra noticed. You're tired, she said. I've been worse, he answered with a faint smile. She looked down at his feet, seeing the blood on his boots. You humans. You never stop fighting, do you? Maybe that's all we know, he said quietly. A sudden sound broke the silence by the high whine of engines. Ethan froze. Drones, he whispered. In the distance, small black dots appeared, moving fast through the air. They were scanning the desert, beams of red light sweeping across the sand. Ethan grabbed Lyra's hand. Run! They sprinted toward the ruins ahead, what was once a research station before the war. Half of it was buried under sand. The drones fired. Laser blasts exploded around them, sending dust and heat into the air. Ethan rolled behind a metal wall, pulling Lyra with him. Stay down, he shouted. She covered her ears as another explosion shook the ground. Ethan fired his blaster, hitting one drone. It fell, burning. But 3 more appeared. Lyra's eyes glowed faint blue again. She raised her hand, and the sand around them lifted like a storm. The drone's sensors blurred, their aim confused. Ethan stared in surprise. You can control sand? Energy fields, she said breathlessly. It's part of my species. Well, keep doing that. With her power and his aim, they destroyed the last drone. When the sky finally went quiet, both of them collapsed to the ground, gasping. For a moment, there was only silence. The wind, the heartbeat, the taste of fear still on their lips. Ethan turned to her. You saved us. She looked away. You saved me first. They both laughed, a small, broken sound, but real. As night came, they found shelter inside the ruined station. The walls were cracked and the roof half gone, but it was enough to keep the cold wind away. Ethan built a small fire from broken wires and dry fuel cells. The orange light danced on Lyra's silver skin. You ever been out here before? He asked. No, she said. We were told humans poisoned this land. Ethan stared at the fire. They did. During the last battle, they used plasma bombs. The ground still remembers. Lyra touched the sand beside her. It was warm, humming softly. It's alive, she whispered. It still holds energy. Ethan watched her curiously. You feel that? Yes, she said softly. Everything has a pulse. Even dead worlds. For a long time they sat quietly. Then Lyra looked at him again. What will happen if they catch us? Ethan's face turned hard. They'll take you back. And they'll kill me for treason. She hesitated. Then why not leave me? He looked up, meeting her eyes. Because leaving you would make me one of them. Something changed in the air. A quiet understanding. A spark between two people who should have been enemies. The fire burned lower. Lyra's eyes began to close, but she fought the sleep. Your world is cruel, she murmured. So is yours, Ethan said softly. Maybe that's why we need each other. Just as he said that, a sound echoed outside and the deep rumble of engines. Ethan jumped up, scanning the horizon. 3 armored bikes were moving through the night. Human bounty hunters wearing desert masks. They found us, he whispered. He grabbed Lyra's hand again. We move now. They ran through the dark, the fire behind them dying in the wind. The hunters followed, their headlights cutting through the night. Bullets and laser beams sliced the air. Ethan fired back, one shot after another. Lyra turned and lifted her hand, creating a bright shield of blue light. The bullets bounced off like rain on glass. The chase went on for miles. Finally, they reached a canyon edge. The ground dropped hundreds of feet below. Ethan looked down, then back at the hunters closing in. We're out of options, he said. Lyra looked into the canyon. Glowing rivers of light flowed deep below. There's energy down there, she said. It might protect us. Or kill us, Ethan said. Do you trust me? She asked quickly. He looked at her, really looked, and nodded. I guess I do. Together they jumped. The wind roared. The light swallowed them both, and as the hunters reached the edge, there was nothing left, no bodies, no sign. Only the glowing canyon pulsing with strange energy, hiding the 2 fugitives from the world above. When Ethan opened his eyes, everything was blue. Light shimmered around him like water, soft and calm. For a moment he thought he was dreaming, but then he felt the cold stone beneath his hands and the faint sound of flowing energy. Lyra, he called out. Her voice came from nearby, weak but alive. I'm here. She sat beside a glowing wall, her silver skin shining in the strange light. They were in a vast cave, but not just any cave. The walls pulsed with gentle blue lines like veins of light running deep into the ground. What is this place? Ethan whispered. Lyra touched one of the glowing lines. It's ancient, she said. Older than both our species. The Xinar legend spoke of a world beneath, a place built by the first ones. Ethan slowly stood up, still dizzy from the fall. We should have died, he said. The energy cushioned us, Lyra replied softly. It saved us, they began to explore. The tunnel stretched endlessly, filled with light and silence. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the walls. Every sound echoed softly like the place was listening. As they walked, Ethan noticed something. The energy lines seemed to respond to Lyra. Whenever she came near, they brightened, humming louder. It reacts to you, he said. Lyra nodded. Maybe it knows what I am. And what are you exactly? She looked at him, her eyes glowing faint blue. Half Xinar, half something else. My mother said my blood carried ancient energy. That's why the council feared me. Ethan stopped walking. So that's why they punished you, not just for rebellion? Yes, she said quietly. They were afraid of what I could awaken. He looked around at the glowing cave. Maybe this is it. They reached a huge chamber at the heart of the tunnels. In the center stood a tall crystal pillar, surrounded by broken machines. Human and alien technology fused together. Ethan walked closer. Someone's been here before. Lyra touched the pillar gently. It's still alive, she whispered. The pillar flickered, first faintly, then brighter until symbols appeared in the air. Ethan stepped back, shielding his eyes. What's happening? The system is reading us, she said. It thinks we're the first ones. The light formed into shapes, images of stars, planets, and two figures, one human, one alien, standing side by side. Then a voice echoed through the chamber, calm and ancient. Balance lost. War detected. Blood divided. Restore unity. The words faded, leaving silence. Ethan looked stunned. Did that just talk to us? Lyra nodded slowly. It remembers. Before they could speak again, a loud beep came from Ethan's wrist scanner. His face turned pale. They found us, he said. Lyra frowned. How? My signal. My ID chip is still active. They're tracking me. He tore off the metal wristband and threw it against the wall. We have to move. But before they could run, the tunnel walls began to tremble. Dust fell from the ceiling. The ground shook like something huge was moving above them. Ethan grabbed Lyra's arm. Caves collapsing. They sprinted through the tunnel, the glowing walls flickering behind them. Rocks crashed down, blocking the path they came from. Suddenly, Lyra stopped. Wait, she said. There's another way. She placed her hand on the wall. The blue light rippled, forming a doorway. Ethan stared in disbelief. How are you doing that? The cave listens to my energy, she said quickly. Go! They ran through the new passage just before the tunnel collapsed completely. When they stopped to catch their breath, they found themselves in a large underground city, silent and beautiful. Buildings made of crystal, streets glowing softly under their feet, rivers of light flowing between them. Ethan looked around in awe. This isn't just a cave, it's a whole world. Lyra nodded slowly. The hidden city of Lumeris. My mother used to tell stories about it. A place where humans and Xinar once lived in peace, before the war tore everything apart. Ethan walked beside her, looking at the strange mix of technology. If this place still works, maybe it holds something powerful, something the council fears. Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder. Then we must find it before they do. Far above, the bounty hunters scanned the canyon, confused. Their sensors showed no life signs and only static energy. But deep below, two figures stood at the edge of the ancient city, a human soldier and an alien girl, their faces lit by the blue light of the lost world. Neither of them knew it yet, but the secret of this place would soon decide the future of both species. And as the city lights began to wake after centuries of silence, one thing was clear: their story was no longer just about survival, it was about destiny. The silence in the underground city was deep, almost alive. Ethan and Lyra stood in the middle of the glowing streets, surrounded by buildings that seemed to breathe with light. Every step they took echoed softly as if the city was listening. Lyra touched one of the tall crystal walls. A soft hum answered her touch. It's still dreaming, she whispered. Ethan looked around. Dreaming? Yes, she said, waiting for someone to wake it. As they moved deeper into the city, the lights followed them, brightening along their path. Ethan's soldier instincts were on alert, but his heart was filled with wonder. This place was unlike anything he had seen in all his years of war. They reached a wide plaza with a circular platform in the center. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the floor. In the middle stood a statue, half human, half Zynar, holding a sphere of light. Lyra's breath caught. "It's real," she whispered. "What is?" Ethan asked. "The origin stone. My mother said it was the heart of peace between our races." She stepped closer. The statue's eyes glowed blue as she approached. The ground trembled gently. Ethan raised his weapon instinctively, but Lyra held out her hand. "Don't," she said softly. "It's welcoming us." The sphere floated up from the statue's hands, glowing brighter until the whole plaza shimmered with light. Then, a deep voice filled the air, calm, ancient, and echoing from everywhere. Two bloods divided by war, two hearts bound by choice. The balance may rise again. The light pulsed once, and then shot through the entire city. Buildings came alive. Rivers of blue energy flowed again. The sound of machinery, silent for centuries, began to hum. Ethan looked around in awe. You just woke the whole city." Lyra's eyes glowed faintly. "No," she said quietly. "We did." But before they could speak again, a warning tone echoed through the tunnels. A security drone flew overhead, ancient but still functional. Its sensors locked onto them. "Unauthorized life forms detected," it said in a broken robotic voice. Ethan aimed his blaster. "I've got this." "No!" Lyra said quickly. "These machines follow the old laws. Maybe we can make them see who we are." She stepped forward, raising her hands. Her energy glowed bright blue, flowing like waves around her body. The drone hesitated, scanning her. Then its red light turned green. "Access granted," it said. "Heir of Lumeris recognized." Ethan lowered his weapon, stunned. "Heir?" Lyra turned to him, her voice trembling. "It knows me. My bloodline. It's connected to this place." The drone projected a map, showing tunnels, chambers, and one massive structure at the city's core. A tower of light labeled Control Nexus. "That's where the stone's power is centered," Lyra said. "It's what the council feared." Ethan frowned. "Why?" "Because the Nexus can control the energy of both worlds," she said. "If it falls into the wrong hands, it could end everything." They began moving toward the tower, guided by the map. As they walked, Ethan noticed the city changing. Machines waking. Lights following their path like the world itself recognized Lyra as its heart. When they reached the Nexus, they found a wide door of pure crystal. It opened on its own. Inside, a massive control room stretched before them. Glowing screens, floating symbols, and a central core of swirling light. Lyra stepped closer. "This power could heal everything," she whispered. "Or destroy it." Ethan put a hand on her shoulder. "Then we make sure it heals." She looked at him, eyes full of trust. "You really believe peace is possible?" "I believe in what's right in front of me," he said. "And right now that's you." Before she could respond, the ground shook violently. The screens flashed red. Ethan drew his blaster. "What now?" A cold, metallic voice echoed from the speakers. "Unauthorized access detected. Council override activated." Lyra's face turned pale. "They found the signal. They're connecting remotely." Outside the Nexus, the air shimmered and a portal opening in the plaza. Through it stepped a squad of soldiers armored in black. Behind them, a tall figure appeared. The Council's high commander, his face hidden under a silver mask. Ethan's grip tightened on his weapon. "They came fast." Lyra's voice was low but steady. "They came for the power." The commander's voice echoed through the chamber. "Surrender the girl, Captain Hale. The alien does not belong to you." Ethan stood firm. "She doesn't belong to anyone." The commander laughed coldly. "Then you both die." Lasers filled the air. The battle for Lumeris had begun. Lyra's energy flared, blue light rising around her like wings. Ethan fought beside her, every shot echoing through the ancient city. And as the two stood against the Council's might, the great heart of Lumeris pulsed brighter, reacting to their unity, their courage, and something deeper neither of them yet understood. The city was awake. The war for its soul had just begun. Blinding flashes of red light filled the ancient city. The sound of gunfire and explosions echoed through the glowing halls. The Council's soldiers marched through the plaza, armor gleaming under the blue glow of Lumeris. Ethan ducked behind a pillar, his blaster hot in his hands. "They've got reinforcements coming from the west side," he shouted. Lyra stood in the middle of the chaos, her body surrounded by a faint blue aura. Every time she raised her hand, waves of energy rippled through the air, throwing enemies off their feet. The once silent city now trembled under the clash of two worlds, human and alien. Ethan fired at the incoming troops, his aim sharp and precise. "Lyra, we can't hold this spot forever." "I know," she called back. Her voice shook, but her eyes burned with determination. "The Nexus is reacting to the battle. It's drawing power from me." The ground beneath them pulsed with light. Streams of blue energy ran across the floor, climbing the walls like veins. Ethan looked around in disbelief. "It's alive again." "Yes," Lyra whispered, her voice trembling. "And it knows I'm here." From the center of the plaza, the council's commander stepped forward. His silver mask reflected the chaos. "Foolish girl," he said. "You've awakened something you don't understand. The Nexus belongs to us," Lyra glared at him. "It belongs to no one. It was meant to bring peace." The commander laughed. "Peace? There is no peace. Only control." He raised his arm and his soldiers aimed their weapons. Ethan grabbed Lyra and pulled her behind cover as lasers tore through the air. "We need to reach the Nexus core," Ethan said quickly. "If we can shut it down, maybe it'll stop drawing them here." Lyra nodded. "It's below the plaza. There's a hidden lift." They sprinted across the plaza under fire. Energy blasts exploded behind them, lighting up the ancient ruins. When they reached the center, Lyra placed her hand on the glowing floor. The symbols shifted, forming a circular platform. "Go!" she shouted. The lift descended into darkness. The deeper they went, the quieter it became. The noise of the battle faded into distant echoes. Finally, the platform stopped. Before them stood the heart of Lumeris, a massive sphere of glowing light floating above the ground. It pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. Ethan stared. "This is it?" Lyra nodded. "The power that once united our species." She stepped closer. The light responded, growing brighter. Ethan could feel the heat rising. "Careful," he said. "I have to try," she whispered. "It's calling me." She reached out her hand. The moment her fingers touched the energy, visions filled her mind. Images of humans and Zynar working side by side, building Lumeris together. A world before war, before hatred. Then she saw the destruction, the betrayal, the fire, the council's rise to power. She gasped, stepping back. They lied. The war was never meant to happen. Ethan frowned. "What do you mean?" "The council started it. They wanted control over the Nexus. They destroyed both worlds to keep its power secret." Before Ethan could answer, the commander's voice echoed through the chamber. "Impressive, girl. You found the truth, but you won't live to share it." He stepped out of the shadows with his soldiers. Somehow they had followed them down. Ethan aimed his blaster, standing in front of Lyra. "You'll have to go through me." The commander smiled. Gladly, the fight exploded. Lasers cut through the air. Ethan took cover behind a console, returning fire. Lyra summoned her energy again, but this time it was different, stronger, more focused. Blue light burst from her hands, forming a shield that stopped the incoming blasts. Ethan looked at her in awe. "You're controlling it." "I'm not," she said, her eyes glowing. "It's controlling me!" The Nexus pulsed faster, responding to her power. The soldiers froze as the energy rose around them like a storm. "Lyra!" Ethan shouted. "You have to stop!" Tears streamed down her face. "I can't. It's too strong." He ran toward her, ignoring the explosions, the heat, the chaos. He reached her and grabbed her shoulders. "Listen to me. You're not alone. You control it, not the other way around." For a moment, everything stopped. Lyra looked into his eyes, full of fear, pain, and something deeper. Slowly, the light around her began to calm. The Nexus stopped shaking. Ethan sighed in relief, but the commander wasn't done. He lifted his weapon and aimed at Lyra's back. Ethan saw it and reacted instantly, stepping in front of her. The shot hit him square in the chest. Lyra screamed. The Nexus flared with blinding light. Energy exploded outward, knocking everyone to the ground. When the light faded, the chamber was silent. The commander and his soldiers were gone, erased by the blast. Lyra fell to her knees beside Ethan. His eyes were barely open. "You protected me," she whispered. He smiled weakly. Told you. I'd always have your back. Her tears glowed blue as they fell on his armor. Don't leave me, she begged. The Nexus pulsed again, once, twice, as if answering her grief. A wave of healing light flowed over them both. Ethan's breathing steadied. His wound began to close. Lyra looked up, her face glowing with hope. The city was silent again, but alive. The heart of Lumeris had chosen its guardians. Together they had survived the impossible. But the war above wasn't over. Not yet. When Ethan opened his eyes, everything was quiet. The blue glow of Lumeris surrounded him like gentle starlight. His chest no longer burned. The pain was gone. Beside him, Lyra sat with her eyes closed, her hand resting over his heart. She looked exhausted but peaceful. You're alive, she whispered when she saw him move. Ethan smiled weakly. You didn't let me die, huh? She shook her head. I couldn't. The Nexus. It healed you through me. Around them, the heart of Lumeris pulsed slowly, calm now, like it was breathing again after centuries of silence. The battle was over for the moment, but Ethan's mind was already racing. The Council will send more troops, he said. They'll want the Nexus back. Lyra stood and looked at the glowing chamber walls. Then we end this. We end them. She walked toward the central control platform. The ancient symbols lit up beneath her feet. The Nexus is fully awake, she said softly. It remembers everything, every war, every death, every lie. And it's ready to choose who leads it. Ethan stood beside her. And who will that be? Lyra looked at him, her blue eyes bright like twin stars. Both of us. The Nexus reacted instantly, the lights rising, forming two streams of energy, one red, one blue. They circled around Ethan and Lyra, merging in the air above them into a single white flame. A deep, ancient voice filled the room once again. Unity restored. Two hearts, one will. The age of division ends now. The light spread across the city, flowing through every tunnel and tower. Far above the ground, the desert shook. Buried towers of crystal began to rise through the sand, reaching toward the sky. The hidden world of Lumeris was returning to the surface. Ethan and Lyra shielded their eyes as sunlight poured in for the first time in thousands of years. When the shaking stopped, they found themselves standing at the top of a crystal tower, looking down at the reborn city shining under the twin suns. Lyra whispered, It's awake again, just like before the war. Ethan nodded. And now the whole world's going to notice. He was right. In the distance, ships were already approaching. Council cruisers, their dark hulls cutting through the bright morning sky. Ethan tightened his grip on his weapon. They're coming fast. Lyra stepped forward, her aura glowing faint blue. Then let them come. As the first ships hovered above the city, a voice boomed from the Council's intercom.
Step away from the Nexus.
You are under arrest for treason. Lyra raised her hand. We don't serve you anymore. The ships opened fire, beams of red light shooting toward the tower. But before they could strike, the Nexus reacted again. A massive shield of blue energy surrounded the city, absorbing every blast. Ethan stared in disbelief. You did that? Lyra shook her head. We did. The Nexus connects to both of us now. The sky shimmered as more ships arrived, but none could break through the glowing shield. Then something unexpected happened. Other signals appeared on the radar. Smaller ships, worn and patched together, approached from the north. They weren't Council forces. They were rebels, humans and aliens flying side by side. Ethan smiled. Looks like word's getting out. Through the comms, a familiar voice spoke. One of Ethan's old war allies. Captain Hale, if that's really you. We saw the light from Lumeris. Tell us what's happening. Ethan looked at Lyra, then back at the sky. Tell them, she said softly. He pressed the comm button. This is Captain Ethan Hale of the Earth Defense Corps and Lyra of the Zynar people. The war is over. The truth is out. The Council's lies end today. Cheers erupted across the channels. The rebel fleet formed a protective circle around Lumeris. The Council ships began to retreat, their commanders shouting confused orders. The world had changed faster than they could control. As the sun rose higher, the crystal towers of Lumeris gleamed like a new dawn. Ethan turned to Lyra, his voice quiet. You did it, she smiled faintly. We did, but her expression grew serious. This peace won't be easy. The Council won't give up. Ethan nodded. Then we'll make sure they never rise again. The Nexus shimmered behind them. casting white light across their faces. For a moment, everything felt still, like the universe itself was watching. Lyra looked up at the sky, her voice soft but full of hope. Maybe this is what the first ones wanted. Not war, not power, just understanding. Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder. And maybe we're the start of it. They stood side by side, a human soldier and an alien girl, two enemies turned into protectors of a forgotten world. Below them, people began to gather, humans and aliens from across the wastelands drawn by the light. For the first time in generations, they looked at each other not with fear, but with hope. The story that began with a slave and a soldier now ended with something far greater, a new alliance born from the ashes of war. As the wind swept through the shining city, Lyra turned to Ethan with a smile. "What now?" she asked. He looked toward the horizon where the suns rose together. "Now, we rebuild." And in that golden light, their journey, full of pain, courage, and love, became legend. The world called it the dawn of Lumeris,